Welcome back to the Panthers.com video mailbag. Staff writer Max Henson here as Panthers get ready to move into the next phase of the offseason. We've got OTA starting next week, and we've got our first question from Chris White, who says, which rookie do you think will have the biggest impact this season? I think immediately you go to the cornerback position, and we're not sure, of course, how it's going to shake out just yet. We've just seen the rookies get out there for rookie mini camp, just a brief introduction to what life is going to be like as a Panther. No pads on during those practices. We'll get to see them out with the veterans and OTAs. That'll give us a bit of a better sense. But that position group, just because of all the turnover there, is going to be the biggest opportunity for somebody to make a big impact. You look at James Bradbury, Darryl Worley, Zach Sanchez. Those guys are going to be competing for some major playing time. You look at the first two, there's a position to start on the outside that's up for grabs right now. Whoever can take that spot, of course, is going to be right in the running to have a major impact on this defense, to be one of the starters. And right now, Zach Sanchez has been penciled into that nickel spot for Carolina. Brandon Boykin, of course, let go. There's an opportunity for him to step in right now and kind of take that job. So those three corners, there's that battle for playing time that's going to continue out through training camp. Of course, it's going to be something to keep an eye on. And whichever one of those guys emerges as one of the starters, or in Sanchez's case, if he takes that nickel spot, you know how often Carolina likes to use that nickel defense. They'll definitely have a big impact. Got our next question from Nick Bolick, who asks, what 5 receivers can we expect to make the final roster? Does Kieris Garrett have a legit shot? Again, we're so early into this, it's hard to say which 5 receivers are definitely going to be on the roster at this point. We've got a lot of football left to see as we get closer to training camp. But I think you look at the top of the wide receiver depth chart, of course you're going to start with Kelvin Benjamin, you're going to talk about Devin Funchess, and Ted Ginn, the guy who had 10 touchdowns last year. Those 3 really have established themselves as guys Carolina's going to be counting on. You can't forget about Philly Brown. I mean, this was the guy who came in undrafted. But you look at last year's postseason, he made arguably the biggest plays of that postseason run. Look no further than that Arizona game in the NFC Championship, 86-yard touchdown, the longest receiving touchdown in Carolina postseason history. So there's a lot of good players in that wide receiver group. It's amazing how quickly that group has gone from something that a lot of people had a lot of doubts about to a couple of years later. Now it's one of the strongest, deepest on this team. And of course, you mentioned Kieris Garrett, another undrafted rookie that's coming into the mix, 6'3", 220 pounds, another big target. He's going to get every chance to impress. Ricky Proehl is going to give everybody an opportunity to get out there and show what they can do and let the best man win. We've got our last question from Colton Hunter, who says, is this the year we unfortunately lose Burson? Seems to be a tough battle for him to stay, or is he on the practice squad? Again, it is going to be a tough battle for him to stay. We just talked about this wide receiver position is very, very deep. Brenton Bursin is a guy who has impressed the coaches throughout his time here. He's going to try to do it again and do everything he can to earn a spot. You did mention about the practice squad. He is still practice squad eligible, so that is also an option for Brenton. He started the year in the practice squad last year, then was activated, and we saw him play a role in some games down the stretch. So for Brenton Bursin, like all these wide receivers, they've got a battle on their hands. They know the talent in this position group. They really just have to focus on themselves, try to improve day in and day out, make the most of every rep they get. And of course, that's what we're going to be watching as we get on the field at OTAs and get closer down to Spartanburg. Well, thanks for the questions this week, everybody. We'll do it again next time right here on Panthers.com.